Hi, Maria.
Hi, Shehnaz.
I'm so excited. So, we are actually here to just kind of have a little conversation among ourselves. I met Maria Crisler, clinical research scientist, through Sasha Stone. She's following her calling to help everyone boost their immune system through all her products, Abeytu Natural. And I actually take the tincture and I also take the pills that truly kind of helps me manage my overall health. And we're just excited to be here today and have a little conversation on actually she wants to interview me on this video, but we are going to be doing more and more of these type of conversation where we will get into more of a healing aspect of ourselves in many ways, because both Maria and myself, we kind of have a lot of similarity in terms of the one of the goal we have is to heal the human being from inside out. And we want to make sure that we can bring a different perspective on healing by having this conversation. So, Maria, go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you. I'm really excited the way that we met, actually, because I'm used to seeing Shehnaz on screen and never really had an opportunity to talk to her one-on-one, and I never face-to-face, which is always fun. Thank God for the internet and Zoom. But I am a clinical research scientist of over 20 years. My background is in clinical pathology, and I was a specialist under the microscope. I taught college microbiology. I have had a very diverse career, I guess I should say. Much like Shehnaz, started off a little squeaky. I think Walmart was my first job ever. I think I was in home ec or home domestics products, folding towels or something. So working my way through college, and then I actually was a single mom through college, and a Hall of Fame track athlete. I did a lot of my training in Colorado Springs, Colorado, in the United States, and then went on to open my own, be an entrepreneur, open my own businesses and laboratories, pathology laboratories, worked side by side with pathologists. I've had some decent acknowledgments throughout my career, and now, fast forward, I am the chief scientific officer for my own company, and I have a good, strong partner, MD partner, and we have created an amazing natural health, holistic healing line, healing the body from the inside out. So that's me. I have been heavily involved in researching, yes, I should say, quantum physics and mechanics. Shehnaz always struck me as a very intelligent person that had a lot more behind her than what I was seeing on screen. I would get to see maybe, 5-minute snippets. So I'm really excited. I had the opportunity to read her book. I believe this is your first book, right?
Yes.
Quantum Being.
Yes.
Fantastic, because I am a study of Dr. Joe Dispenza. There were some other names mentioned in your book that it was remarkable because I followed the exact same path, maybe not on the exact same timeline or during the same time periods, but I've been researching for, even in the quantum field for probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. Something like that is when I first started thinking, look, there's got to be something more that I just I'm not okay with where we are. I'm not okay with where I am. I know that there's something much bigger than myself. And I always lived my life by my universe. And it's kind of funny. I'll tell you this quote directly from my business partner, but I would tell her something to get so excited and so passionate about it. And she's more of the type D personality with, I always tell her that I'm dragging her like a concrete block behind me, or she says to people that I'm like a fire that she can't put out, and she's chasing me with a fire hose. Like, that's our relationship, you know? but I always tell her that, you know, we don't have to worry about it because that's not going to happen, because that's not how my universe works. My universe works for me. And if this is the way I see things happening, or what I want to make sure happens, then it will happen. And it might not be, you know, in the time frame that maybe that we want it, but this is where I'm going to live, you know, in this headspace. And she would say, you know, you and your universe are going to get us into trouble. Right? But you talk about manifestation in your book, and I wanted to go through a couple of things that I really enjoyed throughout the book. So first off, when Shehnaz starts her book, this is really great. So I'm an English study, and meaning literature and mechanics, right? So quotations and words and structure. And I have to say, first off, that I enjoyed the way you structured the book, because you gave a nice outline whenever you started in the introduction. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through the soul awakening, and then the soul recognition, and then the soul activation. And then within it, this is what you're going to find. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Shehnaz does an amazing job of this, and she sets it up just profoundly and so organized that you know what to expect in the book. The other thing that I would say by summary that I enjoyed is, this is the way I would do it. So I was really excited about this, but you gave a short, personal, very personal story to start off the book, which was intriguing. So then it really set the stage for you know, going into how you came about your learning process, right? And how you became, Shehnaz is a rocket scientist, you know, for NASA. So from cleaning, was it dry cleaning clerk to NASA scientist? Yes. And so that, I mean, talk about an amazing story. And then having to fight the constraints of religious upbringing, not easy and pretty fantastic. So I thought it was a tremendous book. I'm excited to talk to you more about it. So do you have anything that you want to say, so that I'm not taking the entire?
Well, I'm definitely feeling very flattered by all the things you're saying about the book. And as I said, I'm very excited that how, you know, how the universe will receive my book as it's going to come out in the month of October this year. I'm very excited because to me, it's almost like birthing a fifth child for me, because I do feel that the book has been in me all these years, and finally it's kind of time for it to be shared with the world, which is why it's in the form of a book. And of course, book to me is a very one-dimensional expression of me, right? Because you know, you can only write so much in words that is all part of you, because I embody the very thing that I'm expressing in a very small way to give people a peek into what one can do with their lives, right? And so, yeah, I appreciate all your encouragement and all your beautiful words for me to feel like I have done a good job with the book.
No, you did a really good job. The thing is it's also difficult to write, and it's not, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a novel. It is a jam-packed book. There is either a lesson or a beautiful story in every chapter that every single person, I guarantee you, when they're reading it, they can relate to. Right. And, you know, at the end of some of the chapters, you go through and you say, okay, let's do a little workshop. 1, 2, 3. Imagine this, this, this. Right. And what's funny is that also is that when I was reading part of it, I was on a 3-hour trip through the state of Wyoming where I had no cell service. And I had told Shehnaz, I'm like, this is going to be the perfect opportunity for me to read this book, because no one can bother me. It's going to be great. And lo and behold, you know, my husband's driving and he says, well, you're going to read it out loud, aren't you? I mean, I want to hear it. Why can't I hear it? And I'm thinking, well, that's, you know, my voice gets tired and I don't want to talk for 3 hours. And so it slowed me down. Right. So, but I read it to him, and we went through a lot of those exercises, I guess I would say, literally, it's not like it takes 20 minutes. It took us about 1 to 2 minutes, right, per exercise. And that's the other thing that was really fantastic about it. In particular, I wanted to start with something that I resonated with very strongly, and it was part of your soul awakening chapters, right? And in particular, removing the golden cage. And I liken that to something that I always say about myself. I am not good backed in a corner. I do not like feeling like I'm in a cage, like a caged animal. And I frequently reference that exact statement. Exactly. And then I read it in your book. And I thought it was brilliant, the way you explained being in this cage. So I wanted you to talk about it for a little bit, that particular chapter, if you would.
Yeah, so I think that one thing that I want to tell everyone about golden cage and the way I envision the golden cage is because the thing is that it's like, all the glitters are not gold, right? It's kind of along the line where when we are chasing whatever the dream we have, right? Because we want to chase that because there's a reason we're supposed to go there. And in the process, and we have to go there no matter what it is, because the only way we're going to see that we are in the cage or we are in the golden cage is by being at that vantage point. There's no other way for us to have that understanding, the awareness, the comprehension, the evolution, the expansion of consciousness, because all of that happens only when you're at that particular point. So even if you are hung up on, let's say, making a certain amount of money, don't try to judge yourself. It's good. Just do exactly what you want. Get there. Become a millionaire if you have to. Become a billionaire if you have to. But then once you get there, that's the only way you're going to be able to see the layer within yourself that you need to unveil, because we all have a different destination that we create for ourselves. And there's a reason we have this innate desire to follow whatever that calling is. And to me, I think that's what I'm trying to convey there. That for me, for example, the golden cage pretty much was that, everybody growing up in Karachi, Pakistan, the most successful thing a girl can do is find a husband that's educated and has been able to make good money where he can take care of you. You can have healthy, beautiful children. All of those are kind of a little bit of the standards that to some extent in the whole world we all have, right? Of course, in my case, nothing was falling into place, right? I mean, my husband was very educated, of course. However, financially, we were not well off from the get-go. Then I ended up having a child that is born with a very, born with a condition that I wasn't even expecting. Nobody wants to become a mother and then have to deal with something like, oh, well, your child may not be able to walk or talk. I'm like, what the hell, right? So for me, every single thing that could be a normal for general population was never normal for me. So in a way, that's the main reason I'm writing this book, because I'm covering all the demographics that will have challenge, because, at the end of the day, life is imperfectly perfect, right? So it's kind of, there's that imperfection in all of our lives. And even if some aspect of our life is good, there's some other aspect that's not so good. And how do you transform that problem into solution is by first recognizing that you are in a golden cage, because, it is golden, it looks very beautiful, but it is still a cage.
It's still a cage. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I loved it. I loved the chapter. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, and we talk about, and you probably know where I'm going to go, but we talk about mirrors. And of course, I studied that chapter pretty thoroughly. And because it is the hardest thing to do. And I reckon with this daily, multiple times a day, where I have to, it's not so much egocentric type of things, but it is, I have to check my my perspective, my attitude, my expectations, my ego, everything. In almost every situation, I will sit and think about it now. But Shehnaz does this soul recognition chapter where she's talking specifically about, I believe it was 7 mirrors, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and there were a couple that obviously, and I liked the fact that when you went through that chapter, you said this is also something that is a work in progress for you. right?
Yes. It's a work
Yeah,
in progress for everyone because, we are constantly dealing with mirrors every day, and especially people like you and me who open the door for anybody to walk in. Like you are in this service mode where you're a CEO of a company that's all about healing products. So now you're going to deal with a whole bunch of people who truly need that healing. So you're going to run into so many amazing people, but so many people who truly need that tincture from you, right? Similarly, in my case, I'm a quantum healer. I like to heal one-on-one. I like to teach workshop. I'm writing this book is because I'm opening the door to attract people who truly are ready to exchange with me. So that type of, like, when we are into that, it's kind of like you're truly inviting a lot of mirror to be processed.
You are switching directions every couple of minutes of every day. It literally is like that because I will go from speaking to, say, a group of doctors, and we're talking about science and technology, and then relating it to pathology and what's going on today. And then I'll get a random text from my daughter, and I text her back very literally, where I come off as not so empathetic towards her plight and what she has going on with maybe people that she knows who are getting sick. And so I'm not very good yet at switching gears and being this literal person. And I before we started this interview, I thought, all right, now I could have handled that differently. I mean, I really could have handled that differently. And I'm constantly checking myself. I really enjoyed the chapter. It's a self-reflection, and I'm speaking to the audience here, and Shehnaz does a very good job at just saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look at these all exist all day, every day. I encourage people to go in, and if you're thinking about maybe getting married or starting a family or switching a job or making some sort of a life decision, whether it's buying a house or whatever, I would encourage you to go in and read the book and actually look at that chapter and do some different self-reflection and examine the things in your life and make sure that you're doing something that is going to work for you. I found it to be a very enlightening piece and part of your book. So it was a very complicated chapter too. So
Right.
I thought you did a very good job lining it out.
Yeah, thank you very much. And even in the end of the chapter, I kind of give this exercise for the people that like on a regular basis, like in your case, your husband and your daughter, right? Or let's say you have a business partner. Those people are truly kind of like you're part of your inner circle. And it helps when you truly understand the people that you meet on a regular basis versus the one you meet once in a while versus strangers. So there are 3 categories, right? And of course, you want to make sure that if you truly know whatever mirror they're holding on for you, it just makes it a little bit easier because you're no longer like you can know the pattern, you can understand exactly what they're showing you, what you need to process. It just takes a lot of guesswork out and puts you more on the path of evolution where you are focusing on how to truly process it in the most quantum being way, because we have so many gadgets within us and we just don't truly use it, right? So I think that to me, like, that's what I really enjoyed with this book, is because as I have been writing all these chapters and making sure I can make it comprehensible for others, I'm also expanding my own understanding and consciousness about all of these. So in a way, it like I say that the book is in me.
It literally just that chapter alone, and then other pieces of the book obviously have already helped me change because it brings it out into the forefront. So I've already changed my reaction to some things, certain just nominal situations, little things that don't matter or that shouldn't matter, right? So I'm already trying to be more conscious and self-reflective and in any situation. So I appreciated it. Plus, to be honest with you, it forced me to sit down. I mean, I was thankful that I had that I have a deadline. This is what I'm going to do. I've been talking with Shehnaz. I want to read her book. And, we schedule this video, for today so that it pushes me to make sure that I prioritize. And I was thankful that it did, because thoroughly enjoyed it. I got up this morning, I finished my last 2 chapters. I was happy to do it. I looked forward to them. I think you did a fantastic job. And I would recommend it to many other people. There was another piece of the book that I loved. So Shehnaz talks about soul activation. And there are a lot of people out there right now, and they are wondering, I try to make it a habit to practice a lot of the things that you detail in your book. So I try to do that. And it's no surprise because, as you were telling me before, we are a 3-6-9 pair, right? So we were probably always going to have this conversation. It was going to always happen. And because that's just the way it was, that's how our numbers line up. And it was divine and it was meant to be. But I love doing these things. I am a study of many of the things that you are a study of, although I'm not a rocket scientist. But I'm so impressed the way that you go about soul activation. When you're talking about DNA and the memory that our DNA contains, I'm reading about, and this is something I didn't know, I'm reading about terabytes of information in one single strand of DNA, which I thought was magnificent. And whenever you walk into a room and it seems like you've been there before, how that is relative to potentially a past life or some sort of a deja vu moment and what that means. I'd like you to talk a little bit about, because I think people would be really interested in this, how your DNA contains memory and what it means.
Yes. So basically, and in my book, I go, of course, into explaining the intrinsic memory, right? Which to me, intrinsic memory is the memory that we're constantly accessing subconsciously, right? So we have a memory within our body. So for example, the fact that if you have a chronic pain, right? Like your body truly has decided and has stored that information in you. So it's going to always be hurting, to the point where they have even shown that when they talk about phantom arms, people can you believe that even when the arm is not physically there, the fact that people are still hurting in the exact same area that used to hurt, that is a classic example of the fact that you are accessing memory, not through your physical cell, but through your etheric energy that is very much like an acupuncture point, right? Acupuncture point works on not on your physical, but something that is right above it, which is the layer, right? Which is the layer of aura. That's the electromagnetic field we're talking. So the thing is that you have this memory that you are accessing subconsciously at all times that's stored in you. So it can be the pain that you are constantly feeling. It can be a prayer that you remembered in your childhood, and even though you never recited, but you can access it at will, right? Like in my case, I have been a very good Muslim girl for the longest time, and I had to pray a lot of different prayers in Arabic. And most of them, you are not even supposed to necessarily understand every single word you recite, because it's more important that you recite than you truly know what you're saying. I mean, according to the culture that I come from. But regardless, like for me, those prayers are completely embedded in me, and I can pray them, I can revive them, even if I haven't said them for 20 years, which to me means that I'm accessing the memory that's stored in me. Now, there is a morphogenetic field around us, right? Which is where there is Akashic field, which is kind of part of all of that field, right? Unified field theory is still uncovering that how many layers of information that's out there. But we are accessing the information. So one of the things that I would like to say is that, when you talk about Pavlovian, how do you say Pavlovian response? Can you say
Pavlovian?
Yeah.
Pavlovian.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that truly is a very classic example of how you're accessing memory. So let's say if you have a little, triggers set with certain people, like certain people, you just don't even want to visit them, let's say. What happens when you visit them? Because you already have this response built in that's not very positive. Exactly. Before you can even have a true exchange with them, you already have created so much baggage that when you open your mouth to even say something, you already are not feeling that good. You see my point?
Anxiety. Yeah.
So that is like, because you're accessing the information that's invisible. And a lot of time people don't understand that why is it happening? It's because both of you are accessing that information, not just you. And
That's
both
right.
of you are role playing in that vicious cycle that you already had played before. And the problem is, until you truly renew that pattern and renew the energy access, you're going to keep on playing that role playing, and you're going to keep on reinforcing the very behavior you don't want to. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when you truly understand the energy, the access of memory that is built in you, and how you're constantly reliving the Groundhog Day based on the way you operate from, then that awareness will help you to activate your soul in a way that you can be more proactive in making sure you change the patterns you need to change with people, places,
Right.
and experiences.
Right. No, I loved it. And you know, that kind of ties into quantum entanglement, how we are all related and how we're all connected, I guess I should say. You know, of course, if you're thinking of someone, they might very well be thinking of you at the same time. So I made fun of my husband that way. I said, you tried to say that you never thought about me, which is a lie. Because when I was thinking about you, you were probably thinking about me because Shehnaz's book said so. So
then what did you
I thought
say
that
when
was
you
really
finished
cute
all
though. Yeah, he just kind of giggled because you know, he knows I'm right. But the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is this is because I know we're going to come up against a hard stop, and I wanted to go through this. It's part of the chapter where you were writing about soul versus spirit, and I want to have a dialogue, and you can, you know, clear some things up for me, or you can talk about exactly what happened in this situation, and it literally ties into your book and what you were talking about. When people have these out of body experiences, it's all about death, communication after death, communication with somebody who hasn't died yet. I had a situation where, and we're full of crystals, which I think is fascinating, and I definitely want people to understand this, that this is part of the way that we communicate. When my mother, it was very traumatic. When my mother passed away, I got to her about 15 to 20 minutes after she passed away. And I lay down in the bed next to her. And the paramedics arrived right after me. And she was still sweaty and not a good situation. They asked me, they said, Maria, what do you want us to do? And I said, I want you to leave her alone. So this was in 2007. I was younger, obviously. You know, wasn't ready to lose my mother at such a young age, but here I am having to make a decision on the spot. All I could recall from my memory was I was taught A, B, and C. I know that she's brain dead. I know that she hasn't had oxygen. She's done. They could very well bring her back, but in what capacity? So I knew physically that, you know, this would not be something that she would want. Whenever, and I didn't know this at the time, granted, so I'm in my early 30s, right? You know, early mid 30s. So I laid down next to her and I said, just leave her alone and let her be at peace. She died at home, which is a very positive thing. It's a very positive way to go. And I could swear that she was talking to me. She was not very happy with me. She was asking me, why aren't you letting them help me? She was definitely not happy, and I could feel it. And then you know, I've read and I've researched, and I figured out a few years ago that she, you know, because I thought, well, I'm crazy. I mean, she wasn't talking to me. How could she talk to me? Right? I mean, how could she possibly be talking to me? And of course, I learned, you know, later on that she was talking to me. And then I got to read in your book as well about, you know, what happens before someone dies, the way they, you know, what happens to those memories or that consciousness before they die. And maybe they don't end up dying. They end up going back into their body from an out-of-body experience, and they recall the things that they saw during this experience. And then if they did die, that this consciousness goes with them, correct?
Yes.
But she was communicating according to quantum physics, correct?
Right.
So it was real.
Exactly, because first of all, you are quantum entangled with your mother.
Right.
And not only that, like you have a very emotional connection with her. So you are quantum entanglement occurs at every level with everybody that we interact with in general.
Okay.
But when you have such a deep connection with someone and they are dying, the connection that you have on a non-physical layer by layer is impossible to understand because we don't see all that, but we feel it. So what you felt was truly real. And the thing is that if your mom is still in the space of being only tapping into her consciousness as a limited human being, then of course she's going to judge whatever you're doing because it's beyond her comprehension, right? But if she would have completely transitioned and then she would look at it from a different perspective, then she would understand what you're doing because then her comprehension is expanded. So it's almost like, you have like a flashlight that you're using to light up the darkness, or you have a floodlight that you're using to light up the entire warehouse.
Yeah. 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 So then I'm reading that and I, people don't understand that your thoughts are not contained, right? And that this is measurable outside the body. Consciousness is not contained. And through science, we can actually measure these things outside of the body. The field is real. Telepathy is real. And what's fascinating is that, when you go through your book, and I'll tell everybody, Shehnaz goes through and she discusses the difference between soul and spirit, and she talks about consciousness. She goes through and discusses the different crystals that we have in our body, and how we actually communicate with the field. And I thought it was fascinating because it's never been broken down to me like that, right? I know about my inner ear, I know about my pineal gland, I understand these crystals, but then going into a completely different level of understanding the way the human soul communicates with others, right, through our crystals, and our consciousness. And it was fascinating and it was easily understandable. So yeah, I loved the book. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And that was one of my biggest intention, was to make it easily understandable. And it's funny when you said that, because my chapter 11 is conscious evolution, which is where I truly, because to me, like if you have made it to chapter 11, then that means you can handle it.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it was funny because, when I was, when my publisher told me that just, like make sure that you read out every single chapter with someone else, or someone else read it out so that you can figure out your errors. So I was doing the readout with different friends of mine. And one of my friends who's very spiritually, like really, like she and I always kind of like have a lot of incredible, rich conversation. I chose her to read my chapter 11. And she actually told me that this chapter reads like a rocket scientist. So I was, and she basically said that this chapter needs to, like, you need to do something because this chapter may not, you will lose the audience because of this chapter, right? So when my editor were looking at the book and they were about to enter the chapter 11, I said that, be aware, right? So they're like, I said, maybe wear some Iron Fit outfit or something because you may have to protect yourself. So I was being funny with all of that. And it was funny because in the Elizabeth April interview that I had 2 weeks ago, I mentioned the same thing. And, one of the person commented back, and a few people even emailed me. And they said, Shehnaz, we haven't looked at your chapter 11, but please don't change it. We want you to keep it as is, because we want to read exactly how complex it is, because now you are kind of like almost like testing our intelligence. So yeah, I made it readable, which you already are giving me the endorsement that it is readable, which is good.
Yeah, no, it's readable.
Yeah, because these are hard concepts, because nobody teaches any of that in school, and so a lot of things that I'm covering in my book is truly, I wish that I can create a curriculum and teach it in the school to younger children. I mean,
that's right.
That'd be amazing if they can truly know how powerful they are.
Do you know that if children are raised with this type of intellect and these types of ideas, that they will surpass us. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, 10 and under could read that chapter and just get it, no problem. Because that's where their spiritual awareness is, and they don't even know it. I just think that this type of curriculum should not only, be an elective in schools, but now in the United States, we have the access to charter schools and different types of spiritual schools that is not necessarily church. We don't have to worry about church versus state, right? Because this is something along a completely different, just a completely different education, and it's spirituality. There's nothing wrong with that. And what's also beautiful is that several years ago, and sorry if I'm talking in circles, but I loved it. Several years ago, I have never been, so you grew up and you were a devout Muslim, the perfect, Muslim girl, doing everything as you were told, and this is how you're raised, and this is what you do. I was drugged in and out of multiple churches, different disciplines, different religions, and I will be honest with you, they all scared me. And I would see adults behaving in a certain way, and I thought they were scary. And they all did the same things, and it felt, if I knew when I was very young what a cult was, that's what it felt like every time I walked into a church, because it was this congregation and everybody met and everybody did the same things and everybody listened, and it was like a school, but it was something that you had to do, and it was someone teaching you their interpretation of allegedly the same book. So, and I learned all of these different religions and disciplines, and I thought, I don't like any of this. I just, I don't know if that's a part of Native American, but I just want to go outside and play. I don't want anything to do with any of this. I don't resonate with this. I'm not there. So even growing up, it was, my husband was raised Catholic. And we would have these conversations, Shehnaz, about religion. And, I would say, well, you can go to church, you can do whatever you want. I'm no restrictions. I'm not interfering. And we'd have these conversations about religion and spirituality and God and what do I believe? He was always curious about then what do you believe? What do you believe about God? Well, God is source. And he would say, well, what does that mean? Well, God is everywhere. God is the sun, God is light, God is, I can't explain it to you. This is just what I believe. But I was lost because I never could bring it back to and relate it to science, because I hadn't been introduced to the unified field, quantum physics, and anything like that. This was maybe 12, 13 years ago. So that's when I got to work. And I said, there's got to be something that connects all of this for me. So in your book, you do a very good job of discussing religion and discussing spirituality, and then tying everything together with science. And it further helps bridge any gap that I, ever had. And it just reinforces the fact that they are the same, they are related. So yeah, I really enjoyed that too, and I'm glad that you touched it.
Well, thank you. I just love everything you're saying, because that's giving me reassurance that was my intention. Everything you said has been my intention about this book, and it seems like you're giving me a good feedback that I am fulfilling the intention, and I'm very excited on how it's going to unfold. And I enjoy talking to you. I know we have to wrap up now.
Yeah.
So, but I'm excited that it's going to probably open more doors for a conversation like this,
Right.
and for you and me and for others as they read the book and if they have any questions, because everything that is in the book is truly what I love talking about, I love sharing about, and I love for us to truly understand, because that's what's going to distinguish us from artificial intelligence, because we truly are quantum being, and we're way more unique and powerful than any robot we're going to be working on. That's just the way I see it.
That's
And
exactly right.
yeah, and I want others to see it, right? Like by reading the chapter that explains that why it's very hard to imitate the quantum being as an artificial intelligence.
Yes. And people don't understand physically what we are, right? Because there's this addiction to pharmaceuticals and numbing yourself, and then, you know, honestly breaking that relationship that we have with the earth, with the animals, with the plants. And I know that it sounds very hippie, you know, to hear people talk that way, but until you understand that there is a definite scientific physical connection, you might not ever be healed, right? And we all can use a little bit of healing right now.
Oh my God.
You know?
Yes, we basically need a lot of healing because we want to be at least at the state where we can do a damage control to be where we need to be, neutralize all the things that we have contaminated or compromised for so long. And then after that, when we truly understand how incredibly amazing we are, we start tapping into all of those gifts that we have. And then that's how we can truly ascend or evolve or go to wherever we want to go, because we truly can. It's just a matter of making sure we do damage control, reset, and then reevaluate, and then recharge.
Right.
So yes, as I said,
I would love to, you know, at some other point, we can do a deep dive into, you know, one of maybe even your favorite chapters. Because I have to tell you guys, there's a lot of relatable information in here. And you could, even if it's the mirrors, I mean, we could probably spend a good hour just on, you know, a couple of particular mirrors, right?
Yeah, we can do that.
You know, and that might help a little bit, but I think in today's situation and what's going on out in the world right now, it would be highly beneficial for us to do a really deep analysis of the light.
Okay.
And our physical attributes, because people need it. And it will really tie into the things that I do as well, physically, for the physical body.
Oh, that's a great idea. So what we can do? Yeah, let's
I would love to deep dive into that, because it's very connected and all very relatable. And I think that we can help a lot of people.
Okay, that would help us shine our light, and it would help other people understand what truly light is. And you're right. And that is one of my chapters where I feel like people don't even realize that how limited we see ourselves because of our limitation on how, you know, we perceive within the spectrum that is given to us, right? So yeah, I think that would be a fun chapter to dive into, and that'll be our next one. So for now, we're actually going to wrap up this, and we're going to come back again with some other juicy conversation. So Maria, do you have anything last minute you would like to say before we?
No, but the book's coming out officially in October, right?
Yes.
Okay, so guys, fantastic Christmas gift, fantastic Thanksgiving gift. You know, this would be you know, read the book ahead of time, bring it to your Thanksgiving, and go over a couple little things with, you know, family, and start maybe rekindling certain relationships. So I know that we've all been a little bit hammered, so anyway, thank you. And then we'll do a deep dive soon.
Yes, thank you, Maria.
All right, thanks. All right, bye-bye.